Black woman. Beautiful, powerful, resilient female of African descent with skin kissed by the sun. Conversation. A talk, especially an informal one between two or more people in which news and ideas are exchanged. We love being black women. Black women are ambitious. Black women are confident. Black women are diligent. We are tenacious. We walk out of our houses put together. We are many shades and personalities of fabulous. But we as black women don't talk about our dilemmas, current events, and what's going on every day that affects us. So, we created this podcast as a way to laugh together, cry together, and have an open conversation about life as black women.
Oh, that's deep. Black Women Conversations.
Hey, Nicole.
Hey, Janine.
How's your week been?
So I am finally back in the swing of things. So I've been off since the 23rd of December. So I had Christmas and New Year's off. So I know you guys usually hear us on Thursdays, but we usually record at the very beginning of the week. So this is my first day back to work. And I knew that there was going to be chaos because I'm on the Teams chat. So I've been seeing like such is out with COVID. Oh, we're going to close this office altogether because of COVID. Oh, this hospital labor and delivery is closed down now because every single nurse has COVID. So I had been dreading going back to work because I knew that I was going to be short staffed. But I got there and all of my Katie office staff was still there. My front office person, my stenographer, my medical assistant, and me. We were all back very healthy. Now, I cannot say the same about the hospital staff because the hospitals are still really, really short. And our census is lit up like a Christmas tree. So we have people with severe COVID and mild COVID and asymptomatic. And they're coded as like red for bad, blue for they're not that bad, but they got COVID, and then white if you don't have COVID. So it's like a Christmas tree on the board. There's so many people with COVID. It's ridiculous, y'all. And it makes you really paranoid, right? So the CDC confused the heck out of everybody, talking about if you test positive, but you don't have any symptoms, you only have to quarantine for 5 days. So now they've been throwing nurses back to work since they said that last week, saying, oh, well, you can just work, but just put a mask on and you can take off for 5 days. But people are coming back with symptoms. Like, that is not what they meant. I'm like, I know that the CDC guidelines are confusing if you listen to them real quick, but they're really not. Okay. So it says if you're asymptomatic, you only have to quarantine for 5 days. I know that's confusing because it's like, why would you even get tested if you were asymptomatic? Good question, people that think that, because realistically, you're not supposed to get tested if you're asymptomatic, right? You're supposed to just sort of quarantine, monitor your symptom for 3 or 5 days, and then go on about your business if you're not symptomatic. So realistically, you shouldn't be getting tested if you're asymptomatic. So the CDC put their foot in their mouths because they confused everybody because everybody's like, am I supposed to go get tested every time I get an exposure? The answer is no. You're not supposed to get tested every time you get an exposure. Not unless you have symptoms. Why? Because we can't find no tests. We cannot find them. So the CDC screwed people over. So now people think, oh, now that my symptoms are mild, I only have to quarantine for 5 days. No, y'all. You got symptoms, you still got to quarantine for 10 days. You don't have any symptoms, and you incidentally got tested because your job made you get tested. Or, you happened to get one of those home tests because you didn't want to expose everybody to COVID. So you just tested yourself before you went to grandma's house and you came back positive. Those are the people who only have to quarantine for 5 days. Meaning you're walking around here and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe my test is positive because I have nothing. Those are people that only have to quarantine for 5 days. But I understand the CDC confused a whole bunch of people. So I'm dealing with the aftermath of that. A whole bunch of patients asking me about CDC guidelines today. How has your week been, Janine? That's really the more important question.
Well, I know that you know because my husband called you frantically, but I would just like to say how grateful I am for all of you all. And by you all, I mean medical professionals that put their life on the line every single day for crazy people like myself. Because no, I did not have COVID before you all ask. I was not, thank God I did not have COVID. I was tested numerous times because The medical professionals did not even believe that I didn't have COVID, but I was very sick. And come to find out, I had pneumonia and an upper respiratory infection and bronchitis. And it almost took me out of here. But much like every other time that I get sick, my husband called you, Nicole, and you told him what to do. And he took your advice and took me to the hospital. And I must say, there are a couple of things that I have learned. One, medical professionals are extremely, extremely patient. Two, when people say that hospitals are overrun, I would like you all to know that they really are overrun, at least here in Maryland. I'll say this. I went into the hospital, and when I walked in, they were 120 beds short. And when I mean 120 beds short, it means that there are 120 people at the hospital that needed a bed that they did not have space for. So it literally was one bed clean, one new patient come in. So what they were doing was treating us in the ER, putting our IV in, giving us our little, IV bag, taking our vitals, all of that, testing us, and sending us back out into the waiting room so that we could at least have a place to sit. And when that got full, people just started laying on the floor. So it's real that these hospitals are overrun. So please, let's not try to contract COVID so that it makes it worse, so that people really can get treated when they need to get treated. So no, I didn't have COVID, thankfully. And thankfully, my husband listened to you, Nicole, and I was treated and I am on the mend. So, but I will say this. Nicole did warn me that I should not get boosted while I was sick, and I did not take her advice, and I suffered the consequences. Not only did I get boosted, but I also got the flu shot. And when I tell you it almost took me to be with Jesus, I am being so honest. I really cannot recall feeling that bad a moment in my life. And I've had numerous surgeries. I don't ever recall feeling that bad in my entire 38 years of life. Not once.
Well, I will say this. I really wanted to fly down and beat you. I really did. Because I felt like out of all the times where you were like, I'm not getting a flu shot, or I'm going to get it this year just because you told me to get it this year. And I'm like, okay, Johnny, let your immune system bounce back from the stuff you have before you go testing your immune system. Like your immune system's already down. And then you're going to like put, viral particles from the flu shot as well as spike protein in your body to say, hey, let's see what you can handle. Hey, I mean, really? Like, and not, you did not, it wasn't even like, oh, I have like a mild cough. Like, no, chick, you had pneumonia. Like, you were really sick. Your immune system was compromised. It's almost like, people that have autoimmune diseases. It's not that, the reason that we want people to get vaccinated to have autoimmune diseases is because we know their immune system is already troubled. But we don't want you to get vaccinated while you're in an acute flare, right? That's what you did to your body. You literally vaccinated yourself while your body was technically in an acute flare because you were trying to heal from pneumonia already. I mean, it's just like, what? And I thought I explained that. I know I explained that to you. I know I did. I know I did.
I know.
Your husband is the most patient man on the planet. He gets the most patient man on the planet award because he's just stayed so calm during the whole time. He encouraged you. He made sure you got to the hospital despite you arguing with him. I don't know. I feel like if I would have told my husband the same thing, he would have been like, okay. And I would have laid in that bed. A man may not have died. I don't know. I would have had, you needed oxygen to breathe, okay? You need oxygen.
Yeah.
If I told my husband, because my husband he's not going to assert himself. He's not going to be like, no, we need to do this. He's going to be like, okay, well, if you think that's what you need. And it may be because I'm in the health field. I'm a healthcare professional. So he might be like, okay, well, I trust your own judgment. You know when you need to go to the hospital. And if I'd have told him like, no, I don't need to go to the hospital, he'd been like, okay, I'll check on you later. And I would have died, okay? Your husband deserves all the accolades in the world. He is very, very patient. If I would have personally been there, I probably would have fought you first and then taken you to the hospital. But he did not do that. He was patient and he took you. So, ladies, if you're listening to this story, let's stop being difficult with your husbands. Stop. Don't do that. And if you're not married, your spouse, whoever you're with, your mate, whoever's putting up with you at night, whoever you're in the entanglement with, whoever you're with, don't be difficult when they're trying to look out for your health. Don't do that.
Yeah.
No.
Ken gets the award. He really does. He was so patient. And let me tell you, he sat at the hospital, even though he couldn't come in, he sat at the hospital in the car in the pouring rain waiting for me because he would not leave me at the hospital by myself. And they would not let him in because, one, there was no space, honestly. And two, there were 20 people. The charge nurse told us that there were 20 people, in the waiting room that had tested positive for COVID. So they didn't want to expose people who did not have COVID and had no need to be in the ER waiting room to COVID. So he does deserve an award. And he stayed there with me until the wee hours of the morning. And yeah, but I should have listened. I should not have listened to the people at the pharmacy where I got the 2 vaccines while I was sick. But next time, Nicole, I will listen to every word that you say and follow your directions to a T, because it seems that every time that I don't listen, I end up somewhere in somebody's hospital. So there's that.
Well, big ups to Ken. Now, I will say, because it sounds like I just downed my husband. I didn't down my husband. He would have sat and waited on me. He would have. But I know for a fact if I would have told him to leave me alone, he would have left me alone. And I would have been in the bed like dying. But either way.
I think that Ken was more fearful of how he would have explained to people how I just laid in the bed and passed away. But let me tell you something, Nicole. When you told him, I don't remember what number you told him. He said, Nicole said, once it gets here, you have to go. And I was so delirious at this point. And he was very consistent with, this is what Nicole said, and your pulse ox is not reading what it needs to read. Like, I'm going to call the ambulance. And of course, me being the person that I am, I'm like, I can refuse treatment. Like, I was being all kinds of belligerent. In my defense, I was a little delirious, but I will say Ken is super patient. Like, I'm always the chaos. Ken is the patience. And that's why it works out. It's like yin yang. It's just how it works. And I'm appreciative.
The calm, because I mean, the numbers kept going down and down and down, because I was like, okay, once she drops it like below 93, like it's time to go. Then it was like 92, then it was like 89. I was like, okay, what are we doing here? She needs oxygen. You see how quickly that went? Because
I mean, it was a matter of what, a couple hours?
Yeah, and people do this at home, right? Because people with COVID, they look better than their numbers are. Like, they're sat in like 85%. They're like, I don't think I need any oxygen. I'm like, no, you need oxygen. Like, you're about to like all of a sudden have respiratory depression and need to be intubated if we don't get some oxygen on you. So you can crash in a very short amount of time. So that's why when people test positive for COVID, if they're symptomatic, I'm like, you need to make sure you have a pulse ox at home. And you need to check your pulse ox. And if you get low, you need to go in. And it doesn't need to be extremely low, like low 90s. You need to go to the hospital. Like, you should always be sat above 90, 94. You should always be sat above 94%. And if you drop below 94, you're 92, 93. Yeah, you need some oxygen.
Yeah. I think when I got there, it was like 86.
It was 86. I remember.
And my blood pressure was like 98 over like 50. By the time I had gotten to the hospital. It was bad. And again, I didn't even have COVID. So I can't imagine what it's like for the people who actually have COVID. I can't imagine. But please get vaccinated. Please, everyone, get vaccinated. Not while you're symptomatic, but get vaccinated.
So, Janine, speaking of husbands and how good they are, what's on your timeline this week?
Okay, so we're going to talk about marriage real quick, but not really the way that we probably anticipated. So we all know that one of the main causes for divorce, specifically in the United States, are financial issues. So sometimes those problems aren't necessarily the lack of finances, but rather a couple's ability to agree upon how the household finances should be handled. So some of the things that people don't agree on are, how are bills being paid? Are we having individual accounts? Are we having joint accounts? Or are we having both? Are bills being paid when we receive them? Or are we paying them when they're due? Are they being paid partially? Or are the bills going to be paid in full? How are the bills being paid? Out of our checking account? Or are we paying them on credit cards? What do our financial goals even look like? So all of those things are things that factors into a relationship. And a lot of couples often fail to have these discussions before they actually get married. But some couples, even though they have the discussions before they get married, when their bills and responsibilities come at them hard and fast, things change. But not everyone has problems with finances in their marriage. And recently, I've come across two couples that both went viral on our timelines that seem to have mastered the finances for their relationship. And I say for their relationship because each relationship is different. Here's the first one. The first couple, Lolo and Zakiya. Now, Zakiya, I think, is her real name. Lolo, I'm pretty sure is not his real name, but that's his Instagram handle and TikTok handle. So they're actually from Huntsville, Alabama, and they're engaged. They're not actually married yet. So their story is kind of interesting because they live together and they're continuing to practice abstinence because they don't believe in premarital sex. But they actually live together because they're really big on finances and fiscal responsibility. And obviously, it's a lot cheaper if you don't have two sets of household bills, just having one. So they've taken a vow of celibacy while they continue to live together and build what they're trying to build. They are engaged, I will say that. So the reason why they went viral is because Zakiya revealed on TikTok how they handle their bills. So what she said is that they both contribute to the bills, but her man pays the bills because she believes that men should pay the bills. As do I, but sounds pretty normal, right? Until you get a little bit deeper into the story. So what she revealed next was that, well, let me take a pause for a second. The beginning of it, I was with it, right? The next part is kind of what had me a little shocked and had the internet up in arms. She revealed that her checks are directly deposited into his account with just his name on it. She doesn't say that, but she says it's his account. And once they're deposited in his account, he takes care of all the bills, does all of the investing for the couple, whatever they need to do with the money. And then he returns her a $100 a week allowance. She did say that if she needs more money, she can get more money, but pretty much she gets a $100 a week allowance. And her check continues to get deposited into his account. And that is what works for their relationship. And she plans on continuing that, I guess, when they get married. So they've come up with this plan that's working for them even before they're getting married. So the second couple that I came across in our timeline is a little bit different. And this particular story almost brought me to tears. So the second story is about a family called the Henrys. And the Henrys, they look like a very picturesque couple. The mom, Jayla, the dad, Anthony, and then they have two little ones, a boy and a girl. So they have like the perfect cute little family, right? Well, this past Christmas, like just a few weeks ago, they went viral. And here's why. So Jayla, when they got married, she had the desire to be a stay-at-home mom. So when she got pregnant and had her children, her husband, being the supportive husband that he is, decided to allow her to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom. Well, this is also during, she became a stay-at-home mom in 2019. Think about it. 2 years of that was a pandemic. During the pandemic, she notes that her husband was working multiple jobs to ensure that she could pursue her dreams of being a stay-at-home mom and raising their kids and also not putting their kids' health at risk, right? So she reveals that they struggled, that she remembers overdrafting her account, and she remembers thinking that she wasn't contributing, but her husband never made her feel bad about her inability to contribute. Well, since she became a stay-at-home mom, she also became a successful mom influencer. And while her husband still takes care of the bills, one of the things that she did was this past Christmas, Jayla surprised her husband and paid off all of his student loans. So because he was able to help her achieve her goals, she felt like this was something that she wanted to do for him. Now, the couple, as a couple, they have a goal of being debt-free, and that was the final debt that they had. So with her money that she was making as an influencer, she used that to pay off her husband's debt. And if you watch the video, which we'll post the video, it is the sweetest thing. He opens up a gift, and the shoes, I think, say debt free. It was kind of like a gag. And so he was like, huh? And then she plays this voicemail, and it says that his student loans have been paid off. Now, I'm sure that you now understand why it almost brought me to tears, because you and I always talk about how we would love somebody to pay off our student loans, but like, how sweet is it that she took the money that she had been saving up to make sure that she can pay off her husband's student loans? So these couples have figured out what works for their relationship. I think it is extremely important that before couples get into a serious relationship, and by serious, I don't mean just marriage. I mean a serious relationship where finances are somehow commingled. I think that there are important conversations that need to be had about finances and how they're handled. And like I said, it doesn't always necessarily play out the way that you would like it to, but I think it's really important to have those kinds of conversations with your partner before you're finding yourself in a situation that you have to navigate on the fly. And I think that, you have to be mindful that you want to hold your partner down, but you don't want your partner to hold you up. So you have to be mindful of how the finances are working, and also that the way that the finances are being handled works for both people in the couple. What do you think, Nicole?
I completely agree with that. I think that finances are huge issues when it comes to relationships, and just because you have money doesn't mean that your relationship is going to be better, right? So if you're in a relationship and both of you guys are struggling financially, that is going to be a headache in your relationship. But even if you have a lot of money, you're both making six figures, how you manage each other's finances can also be a struggle in the relationship. So if you guys need to touch and agree and actually be candid about how you're going to handle the finances. It seems like both of these couples have done that. Now, that first couple, okay, let's back it up. Listen, I don't believe in somebody getting my whole check that I don't have papers on. And so when I say papers, I'm talking about marriage license. I'm talking about some type of contract in writing. Like, hopefully there is some type of contract in writing that says, hey, I am trusting you to manage all of our finances, but you are going to handle and put this much into savings for us, pay the bills with this much, and we are contributing equal amounts. If I'm putting my whole paycheck in your account, you putting your whole paycheck in the same account, and I have access to the balance. I'm not just blindly giving you my money and I don't see what we're accumulating over time and what's going into savings or not. I am a firm believer in women need to keep up with how much is coming in and how much is going out. And I'm not saying that they have to manage the bills. I mean, he can manage the bills and he can manage both the paychecks. But at the end of the day, if something happens to him, not even that you don't, make it as a couple. If he gets in a car wreck tomorrow, do you have access to your account? And do you know what's coming in and what's coming out and what actually needs to be paid? You still need to know what's going on, because one day you may have to take up the slack and manage while he's in the hospital, or if he passes away suddenly. You need to make sure you have access and you know what's going on with your account. I understand that it's better. Maybe you're not the best with money. Maybe money burns a hole in your pocket, okay? And he knows that. And so he's giving you the allowance that you said that you want. I completely get that. But you still need to have access to the account, okay? Because if somebody dies and you don't have access, well, then you're going to have to take a death certificate. You're going to have to, who's the beneficiary of this account? There's a lot of red tape you have to jump through if you don't have access to those accounts. So I would definitely say make sure your name's on the account. Make sure you have access. Make sure you know what bills are getting paid and how much you are paying in bills and how much you should be saving. So even though you're not managing it, I still think you should be micromanaging or overseeing the deeds, okay? Because women end up looking real silly when you end up getting divorced or somebody dies or you need access all of a sudden because somebody's hurt. And you say, oh, my husband did all that. Well, you still need access, okay? So that's the bone I have to pick with the first case. And the fact that they are not married and this is happening. Listen, y'all, we give people too much access before we get the papers, okay? If you would do the same with a roommate, So if you and your college roommate moved in together and you say, my college roommate's better with money, so I'm going to give her my whole check and have her manage it and then give me allowance, I get that. I still think there needs to be a contract written between the two of you. But when it comes to love, okay, that can make things real disgruntled. Now, the thing that they have done that I believe in is they did not have sex. Sex can complicate some things, okay? So you love him, you haven't had sex, that's fantastic. Because when you have sex and emotions and that drive and, that puts a whole different level of complexity to this. So maybe it's good that you guys are celibate and you're doing this almost as if you have strong feelings for one another, but you're almost like roommates at this point. So I think that that's a good thing, because I think that a sexual relationship would very much so complicate that situation. Now, with the second couple, I love that, right? They have a union together, they have a family together, and he's holding it down anyway. Sounds like she doesn't have any debt. So, of course, it would make sense for her to get rid of his debt to elevate your entire family situation. So, I definitely think that that's awesome. I don't know how long she's been an influencer, but listen, Janine, we need some dough coming in, okay? Because and I don't know how much he had in student loans, but I'm sitting here thinking about my student loans, and I'm like, maybe my husband needs to become a pastoral influencer on online so he can help pay down these student loans I have. I'm just saying, because I have so many student loans. And I think that that's amazing to be able to do. Anytime somebody can bless somebody and pay something off for them, I mean, that is such a blessing. And if you're in a relationship and you're paying something off for your significant other, that is a win-win for both of you guys if you're going to be together. That's, your income to debt ratio has improved now. Now you can qualify for a better loan for a home, or you can buy the car you wanted. I mean, that you can put your kids in school. You can buy your kids more stuff. I mean, so that is amazing. And it's awesome that she is thinking from that financial freedom mindset to be able to do that. So I think it's great because she has papers on them. Now, if this was the same situation with the first couple that were celibate and they were living together, and homegirl's been paying her checks to this man, and then she paid off all his student loans, we would have been like, is she crazy? Do you have any papers on this man? He can break up with her tomorrow. He got all his student loans paid off. What is she thinking? But the second situation, she has papers on him. Just saying.
I agree with most of what you said. And the part that I don't agree with is I'm not depositing my entire check into anybody's account except for my own. Let me tell you, like Dorothy Mae Grice told me when I was little, you always keep a nest egg. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. You always keep a nest egg because you don't know what could happen. You really don't know what could happen. People can have the best intentions, and at the end of the day, somehow you get in a bad situation. Let me give you an example. Your husband, fiance, whatever, could have a kid that you don't know about, because just because you all are being celibate does not mean that he has always been celibate. A kid that you don't know about. God forbid he get put on child support. Not saying that he's hiding anything, but women are sneaky, and women can say, oh, I had this kid and now this your kid and you owe me this much child support, right? When the people come for the child support, you know what they do? They garnish your wages. They freeze your accounts. If something happens that is unexpected and the account gets frozen and his name is the only one on the account, now all of your assets are now frozen. So now what are you going to do?
But now what she could do in that situation is she could just stop the direct deposit. So if she's directly depositing her check, she stops the direct deposit because they're not garnishing her wages. They're garnishing his wages. So she just stops her account, her direct deposits, or she just puts her money in another account. She could very well do that. That's not his income and they're not married. So she could do that. But I get your point. If they had a savings and those wages were garnered, then she has no access to it. Absolutely. Which is why I think that if this is a joint account, though, then that would not be able to happen. So.
Right. But she said that her check gets deposited into his account. She didn't say into our account. She specifically said her check gets deposited into his account.
Yeah, I don't believe in that.
That I have a problem with.
But again, she needs access to those accounts. Because realistically,
Absolutely.
if she has access to the accounts and he don't have some random baby mama somewhere, then it's okay. But if you find out he has a random baby mama, then
or a student loan, or get sued, or any of those things. You don't know what, it doesn't have to be malicious. It could be, but there are things that garnish your wages or freeze your accounts. I mean, God forbid, my account has been frozen before just because of a bank error. So now if the account that we have or his account gets frozen, then where's my money? I have nothing but the $100 that you gave me for allowance. That sounds crazy as all get out. Now, come on now. You know your mama done taught you better than that.
Well, she'll have to go call her mama then to help her out temporarily till his account get unfrozen. Just saying.
Exactly. Now, I'm not condoning the having your entire check deposited into his account. Look, if that is what works for your relationship and you all share an account, that's fine. But I'm going to tell you, like my grandmama taught me, always have a nest egg just in case. Rainy day fund. Don't go back to Fresno fund. Remember, girlfriends? Don't go back to Fresno fund. Don't get yourself caught out there.
That's real. All right, Janine. So, of course, we're talking about these, paying these men and how they manage money. So let's talk about some letters from our listeners. Why don't we? Let's talk through some not through some. Let's talk through some scenarios.
Let's do it.
All right. So our first letter reads, Nicole and Janine, I think my best friend is being used. She and her husband have been married now for 2 years. She's an orthopedic surgeon and he's a realtor. Last year, she funded him starting his own brokerage firm. He's done pretty well with his sales, but for his birthday, she's talking about buying him a new building. Currently, he's renting a space. I think this is going a bit too far. She says her relationship is going well, but I think this is too early in their marriage for her to make these types of purchases. He's treating her more like a sugar mama than a wife. Ladies, do you agree? Would you fund a building for your husbands?
Now, 2 years in, absolutely not. I would not have funded, I wouldn't have co-signed a car. I wouldn't have done any of that 2 years in. And the reason why I say that is because once you're 2 years in, you're just kind of trying to get the feel for real. Like, let's be honest. You don't really know somebody's weird idiosyncrasies by 2 years. It's a lot that you learn in the first 2 years. I think you need to get to year 3, maybe 4. Maybe 5 if you're Janine. I don't know. I like the kind of situations. If I am funding a brokerage firm, I need to be co-CEO of said brokerage firm. If I'm buying a building, I am buying a building for my husband and I's brokerage firm. That is me. Now, if she's an orthopedic surgeon, right? She's an orthopedic surgeon. She might have money to throw away like that. Janine does not. Janine does not like to throw her money away. And even when Janine makes more money, she is a money hoarder. I will be honest about that. I am the kind of person that likes to hold on to my money just in case there is a rainy day. Now, if that rainy day don't come, it's going to be somebody's kids that are rich. Okay. My point is, I'm not the kind of person to invest in things that I don't see a clear, concise way of me getting a return on my investment. Now, if she feels comfortable in her marriage and she feels comfortable in her relationship and she feels comfortable putting the money up for this, I say, why not? Because it's putting money up for a business. She not co-signing for a car that the moment that he drives it off the lot, it's depreciated. She's not co-signing for some like fly-by-night thing. This seems to be a pretty legitimate business. Now, do I think that he really needs a building in the middle of a pandemic when we've really pretty much determined that we can do everything virtually? Probably not the best investment. But if this is what she want to do with her own money, girl, let her do it. I mean, I get your concern because I would be concerned the same way if my best friend told me that she was doing the same thing and she only been married to this man for 2 years. I probably would be concerned too, but girl, this is her relationship. This is her money. And as long as you don't have to pick up the slack or pay her bills, should this all not work out, girl, mind your business. What you think, Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this couple can do whatever they want with their money. I mean, my thing is, as long as you have papers on somebody, this is your husband, this is who you're going to be with. So I personally would have no problem funding a business venture for my husband if it made sense. And it seems like he's already started his real estate company. He's already a real estate broker, and he's doing well, but he's renting a space. If you're going to take the same money you would to rent to buy something, why not buy it? And if I'm going to buy it for him and say, "Happy birthday, baby," that means my name is on the deed. Happy birthday, babe. I own this building. So you can act a fool if you want to, but if we get a divorce, who own it for real? Me. I own it for real. My name is also on this deed. If I even put his name on there, but my name is got to be on there. I'm on the loan, okay? So if you want to act a fool and we split, we're going to have to do some negotiations, even if I'm not a part of his business, with, are you paying me rent for my building? So now you're paying me rent to stay in my building, or you can move out and I can rent that space off to another business. And if it's a building that has multiple spaces, that's also a business opportunity for her to also lease other spaces out to other businesses. So I think that this is not only, smart, but it definitely puts her in a situation where if he decides to get out, she's still in a situation where he has to negotiate something with her to get out of that mortgage. Okay. Now, on the other hand, she could be stuck with mortgage, right? He could say, "Hey, you're stuck with a mortgage," and he could move out of the space. But again, she could always get somebody to rent that space. And I think that even in a pandemic, it's still nice if you're doing real estate for somebody to have space to come in and do closings and things like that. So I do think it's smart to have somewhere to, especially if you're a broker. I mean, that means you have other realtors under you. They need office space to work. You're training them, so you need training space. So I do think that is a smart investment. And eventually we won't be in the pandemic. And although the housing market is booming and it's really expensive to buy a house, commercial real estate is much cheaper right now because everybody's working from home. So this may be a really good time for her to get commercial space at a cheaper price. That's my thought. But again, everybody is different. We don't know how long this couple was together before they got married. We don't know. They could have been together for 10 years and only been married for 2. I don't know. Okay. But she has to do what makes her sleep at night. And if this man is treating her well and she feels warm and tingly, she's like, "I got my own coins anyway. I can go over here. If this doesn't work out, I can sell the building and move on." Hey, she's a smart woman. She's a surgeon. I'm sure she's thought through this. And I would say, mind your business. Now, if your friend is about to go bankrupt and she's about to take out a second mortgage on the house to do this, now that's different, okay? She has to be stable to do this. But if she's stable and her bills are getting paid and she's not being abused and, he's treating her like a queen, then, let her spoil her man if she can do that.
I agree. I didn't think of it as, oh, well, we can just buy the place. And if you're spending the same kind of money on rent, it makes more sense. So I agree. Good job, Nicole.
So what's your scenario, Johnny?
Apparently, we got a bunch of nosy friends this week. So this one says, Nicole and Janine, I just need some simple advice. My husband and I have been married for 12 years, and we have always split our household bills 50-50. Recently, my husband lost his job due to the pandemic, and while he is looking for a new job, I have been covering the bills, which I don't mind because he would do the same for me. We are not going hungry, and thank God we have not been late on any bills. Recently, I made mention of our situation to my best friend because I had to decline an impromptu girls' trip. She told me I was crazy. I thought she was referring to me missing the trip, but she was really referring to the fact that my husband and I split our bills 50-50. She said that a man is supposed to handle the bills. I kind of agree, but what happened to a partnership? Ladies, am I crazy for splitting the bills with my husband? Am I missing something? Please help. And it says, signed, a confused listener from Thibodaux.
Thibodaux, Louisiana. Thibodaux. I know where Thibodaux is at. I know Thibodaux is at. That used to be, let me tell you, that used to be stomping ground. So going to Xavier, my friend had a friend named Ashley, my friend Sonia, Janine, we rolled down there to Thibodaux, the basketball team. We used to hang out with them. We know all about Thibodaux. Okay, so let's say this. One, sometimes you can't tell your friends everything. I will say this, but I got to think about this logically. If y'all are making the same exact amount of money, let's say both of you guys are engineers and you're making the same exact money, okay? And I say that because I know that's like oil companies and stuff like that out there, okay? And you're splitting everything 50-50. So let's say every 2 weeks you're making $5,000 and he's making $5,000. So you make $10,000 a month, okay? So he's putting $2,500 in the joint account. You're putting $2,500. He's putting $2,500 in savings. You're putting $2,500 in your savings, okay? He loses his job. Now you can't put $2,500 in your own savings, okay? You're putting the whole $5,000 in the joint. So now your savings has stopped and his savings has stopped. So essentially, y'all have the same amount of savings at the same time. So you're working and he's not working, but he's trying. So for me, that's sort of kind of even, okay? Now, some would say, well, if he has savings, I want him to contribute 50-50 until he depletes all of his savings. Well, that's not really fair, because if the shoe were on the other foot and he was stepping up and paying all the bills, do you want to deplete all of your savings to make the house afloat? Or do you want to have both of your savings be stagnant and stay put while you're contributing the majority to the account? And so for me and mine, I would want my husband's savings to stay where it is, because there's still stuff that he may need to do, right? You have anniversaries. You have birthday parties for the kids. You have birthday celebration for you. You still want him to be able to be a man and, take you to dinner when he needs to and pull that out of his savings, or buy a birthday gift for you or his mama without it having to come out of the joint or ask you for money. So you don't want him to deplete all of his savings before you start contributing everything. So I would definitely want to float my husband up front and contribute 100% and let him leave his savings over there and you leave your savings over there. Now the alternative is, hey, listen, maybe we need to join accounts, okay? For a lot of couple, a joint account or 2 joint savings and 2 joint check-ins, it just doesn't work that well, right? For a lot of people. You have to know what works best for your household. And if it's been working best for your household and you're able to juggle all the bills, you're able to keep your savings in your savings and he's able to keep his in his savings and things have been fine. Don't let some other woman come in not knowing your relationship tell you about you and your relationship. What works for you may not work for everybody else. And so you can't let somebody else dictate what you do in your household. So I tell people all the time, like, if you and your husband are swingers and that's what y'all want to do, that's what y'all do. Okay. It's not work for me, but if that's what worked for you, then don't let me come in and be like, oh my God, I can't believe you let your husband do X, Y, and Z in your bedroom. That's not my business. If you're not being abused, if you're okay with it and you think that your husband would reciprocate the same thing if you lost your job, then don't let some other woman who, I don't know if she's married or not, I don't know if she has a man or not, I don't know if she's happy or not, and you don't know. Don't let her come and tell you that something's not right that you've already deemed is right. That's all I got to say about that, Johnny.
I agree. I think that we have a bunch of nosy friends that don't have any business meddling in their friends' financial situation with their husbands. Because, Nicole, like you said, we don't know what this lady's situation is. We don't know that she's married. It sounds like it's talking about a girl's trip. It sounds like she might be pretty single. But either way, you've been married for 12 years. Something is going right that you've been married for 12 years and you've been married for 12 years and you're willing and able and happy to, sounds like, pick up the slack where unfortunately your husband left off because he lost his job. So it's not like your husband's out here being a derelict. He lost his job. It's something that happens to people, right? Like, it's a pandemic. A lot of people have lost their jobs. And until he can find a new one, you seem happy to be picking up the bills. You said that y'all haven't gone hungry. You said you haven't been late on any bills. Not even that you haven't missed any bills. You haven't been late on any bills. Girl, if you don't just be happy with your marriage, the way your marriage is, and let your friends and their 2 cents stay out of your marriage and your marital finances, you'll be fine. Just take what your friend said with a grain of salt and keep it moving. Let her believe whatever she'd like to believe about your marital finances and you keep doing what works for you and your husband.
I mean, that's the whole point of marriage. If your spouse can't hold you down or hold the household down, then what is the point? And like, I understand that, like, oh, well, the man, because men have so much pressure on them. The man has to be the man and he has to take care of the household. You're supposed to stay home. But guess what? If you're a stay-at-home wife and your husband loses the job, you either going to be outside on the street or you're going to have to step up and find a job. Okay. Because sometimes, depending on the field, sometimes you can find a job temporarily faster than somebody else that has been working and has all this experience. I mean, that's just how it is. So sometimes as the woman, we have to be the helpmate and keep things afloat for the moment. Okay. And so if as a woman, you can't step up and make sure your household is taken care of when your husband is struggling, that's a problem. That's a big problem. You should never be so dependent on somebody, and your head should never be so big that you can't humble yourself and go do what you have to do for your family to make ends meet. Like, you should never do that. Like, that's crazy. Like, if I were a man and I was married to somebody and I lost a job and she was like, oh no, you got to find something to do because I'm just going to sit here and look pretty and you're going to pay all the bills even though I have a job, I'd be like, you got to go. You got to go. Like, what? That makes no sense.
Keep your friends out your business.
Keep them out.
Just keep
honey.
them out.
Mm-mm-mm. All right, Janine. So let's talk about what we learned new for the new year. What did you learn new this week?
Okay, so I learned, according to the National Center for Biotechnology Information, that 36.7% of people get divorced because of financial issues.
People get divorced for financial issues and then they realize it's cheaper to keep her. Let me tell you, getting divorced by itself is expensive. It's expensive.
Not that we ever looked into it or anything.
Just saying, it's expensive. But it is expensive.
What did you learn new this week, Nicole?
Okay, so what I learned is 30% of married women make more than their husbands as of February of 2021. But that is tremendously up from 20 years ago when that number was only 19%. So women, we're coming up. The income is coming up.
Wow. So we can't make more money and expect these men to be paying for everything.
But real talk, let's say women actually were paid as much as men were on the dollar. Okay, so we still ain't caught up there. Okay.
Amen.
Then
let's have that conversation.
Okay, because then we would literally be making a lot more. That percentage would be a lot higher than it is now. But we're talking about, we're still making, what is it,
70 some cent
to
on
a dollar.
Yeah.
So, and I think for Black women, it's lower than that. So
it's like 60 something.
Yeah, I think it's 68 cents on the dollar. That's 68 cents on a dollar to a Caucasian man. Okay. So if we could make everything equal, everybody was paid the same for equal work, equal education, then yeah, we would be way surpassed. We would definitely be sugar mamas at that point.
And look, I would be happy to be one.
All right. So ready for the motivational moment?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is an anonymous motivational quote, and it says, husbands too deserve to be spoiled. Tell them that they are handsome. Acknowledge their efforts and make them feel secure. If he's doing his best to treat you like a queen, do your best to treat him as a king. His needs to feel loved and appreciated are real. Until we meet again,
pray, work, slay,
and show off your melanated excellence. Bye!
Oh, That's Deep, Black Women Conversations is produced by Nicole Lee Plenty and Janine Brunson Johnson. Executive producer, Ken Johnson. Get the Oh, That's Deep, Black Women Conversation podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or where you get your podcasts. Please subscribe and rate us. You can follow Oh, That's Deep, Black Women Conversations on IG at Oh, That's Deep, BWC. Oh, That's Deep, Black Women Conversations is a Mean Old Lion media production.